What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to talk through my top 10 fantasy football lessons learned from week 16 as you head towards week 17 and you play in your fantasy championship. We're going to talk through the data, usage trends, nuggets, everything that stuck out to me that you need to know about as we head into this final week here. This is going to be our last in-season top 10 lessons learned video. I will say it's going to be a little bit of an abbreviated version because we have Christmas on Tuesday, or Christmas Eve on Tuesday. We got waiver wire videos to get out. We have rankings to do on the back end. It is a loaded week. As always, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and of course, we will kick off our top 10 lessons learned with the rookie receiver report. And as always, we are sponsored by Underdog over there. Check out Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code AROUND the match. Your first deposit up to $1,000. You'll get a free pick'em. Jordan Love in the pick'em lobby, higher on his 0.5 total yards. They also have, I want to say it's Mahomes for the Christmas Eve, or for the Christmas games on Tuesday, Wednesday. That's when that whole promo is going on as well. They have stuff going on for basketball. It's a great time over on Underdog. Now, the rookie receiver report, again, it's going to be a little bit of an abbreviated exercise here because I got to get a waiver wire video out. Probably going to record that tonight. Got to do some weekly rankings before the Wednesday games. It's a lot going on this week. So we're going to highlight 5 rookies this week, but you can see the entire thing in all of its glory. You, of course, have the rookie receivers here, all 190 routes run or more in terms of the qualifier. You have route percentage, so how often is this receiver on the field taking part in a passing play, targets per out run, what is your volume on a per out basis, yards per out run, what is your efficiency on a per out basis, first downs per out run, are you creating not only big plays but moving the chains? Then of course you have PFF grade. Anything over 80 is elite, anything over 70 is okay, and then they're changing PFF grade from last week. Now at the top, let's talk about Brian Thomas Jr., who goes out here, has a monster game. He's been doing it with Mac Jones. He's been doing it since he came back from injury. I think the stat or something, I saw Underdog tweet it before I clicked record here. If you take out the 2 games following his rib injury, he'd be on like a 17-game pace of 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns. He has been an absolute monster, Brian Thomas. I do want to just get the stat line from his game yesterday. 13 targets, 9 catches, 132 yards, a touchdown, coming off a game last week with 10 catches, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. 32.5 PPR points last week, 28.2 this week. He has been a fantasy football league winner, playoff monster, whatever you want to call him. And when we look at the rookie point per game leaders in terms of best single seasons for a rookie, they are both in the 16-plus point per game club in the top 10 since 1998, which is since Randy Moss. Anything before that, you start getting weird guys who played like during World Wars and all of that. But really impressive stuff from Brian Thomas. He had been out of this picture for a while. Malik Nabers had been in that, Jefferson, Michael Thomas, Puka area. And Brian Thomas is now gaining on all of these players. The top 12 is all star-studded as well. OBJ, Moss, Chase, Bolden, Puka. You got Mike Evans on here, Marcus Colston. You got Julio Jones on the bottom. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff for the both of them. Now, after that, we get Jalen Coker I wanted to talk about. Sadly, it was his worst game as a pro, minus 3.8 PFF grade here. In a game where Bryce Young looked really good, he turned 5 targets into 2 catches, 8 yards. It was his worst graded game as a pro by PFF. Not great for Jalen Coker. Rome Odunze, more of the same for him. We're starting to get into panic territory, right? His targets per out run are in the red. His yards per out run, 1.26 isn't great. Across the board, it's just not great for Rome Odunze right now. You're having Keenan Allen actually eat in this offense. And Rome Odunze is just kind of an afterthought. He fumbled in this game. You're kind of hoping for like a JSN year 2 arc, which isn't a great archetype to bet on. Somebody who underperforms expectations in year 1, hoping they overperform in year 2. Then you have Rome Odunze. Or not Rome Odunze. You have Xavier Worthy, who I wanted to talk about here. My bad. I put up a white flag on him maybe 5 weeks ago, saying it's probably all over. He had dipped like just about under 1 yards per out run. It was looking like it was all over. And now he has back-to-back games of 11 targets. Still nothing crazy in terms of output. I think, he had a rushing touchdown last week. This week he had a receiving touchdown, 20.5 points. Actually, that's my bad. He had great production, 19.6 last week, 20.5 this week. He is rounding into form. His targets per run, 17.7% is actually very good. That's, not quite with the top dogs up here, but 17.7%, that'll play. You'd want more efficiency, but he's now really finding his sweet spot. Where we talked about this, but since week 11, he has now had 6 games of 40-plus receiving yards. Before then, he hadn't hit 40 or more since week 4. So he is now finding consistency. He's finding targets. He's finding the end zone. Still a couple of shoulda, coulda, woulda plays with Xavier Worthy where I think that he tried to catch Travis Kelce's touchdown pass, and that was a weird rep. He had one as well where he could only get 1 foot in bounds on a Patrick Mahomes throw. It seems like he's going to maybe put some things together here down the stretch into a strong year 2. And then Jalen McMillan. He single-handedly knocked me out of the BBM semifinals. Had a team put up 177 points. It was not enough. Jalen McMillan goes out there. On the last drive, he catches 2 balls, and he knocks me out. Really upsetting stuff because once we put up 177, and I'll show it to you guys. But that would usually be enough to advance in most pods. Unfortunately, I pull up with Jonathan Taylor. Somebody else in my pod has Jonathan Taylor. And it just really sucks. You see a lot of scores out there where people get through on 160 points, 158, 159 points. 177 was not enough. But that's the game we play. Jalen McMillan, 5 catches, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. And he increases PFF grade by 2.9. And at this point, he has a touchdown in each of his last 3 games. He's the wide receiver 11 over the last 3 weeks. And now, over those last 3 weeks, has a 1.91 yards per run. That's not bad at all. And a 74.1 PFF grade. Also not bad at all. And I will show you guys why not. If you guys want to suffer with me. It was just absolutely brutal. Completely, I don't know. I didn't get great sleep last night. I won't lie. In a fantasy season where I've been transparent with you guys, not hitting on Saquon, the one hope of hitting something big this year was this BBM team right here, and we fall up short by 1.2 points. It just hurts so bad. It's this one right here. I mean, both of them, honestly, this one here, you can see we lose out 178.32. GG's to RJW. He gets the Jonathan Taylor points as well. And then the Jalen McMillan 14.2. I was much more scared about Mike Evans, but it ended up being Jalen McMillan that put the nail in the coffin for us last night. Rest in peace to this team. If Josh Allen could have given us a 30-piece, we'd be looking good, but that was just a weird game versus New England. We had a fun, hyper-fragile Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Mixon, Pollard team. Just couldn't get it done. Had Brian Thomas, of course. Got nothing from the Buffalo pieces. Sadly, a couple of zeros at, Malachi Corley, Javon Baker, Jalen Polk. Wish that those were more productive rookies on the back end, and then a pretty tough tight end room as well. So I don't know. It wasn't the perfect team, but you hate putting up 177 points, not advancing. This guy, Kirk Clark-Lee, probably just as down bad as I am as well. Because we look at this one. I put up 158, which, okay, that's not super, super deserving of advancing. But my 177, if it was just, if these pods swapped, I'd be up 10 heading into the game tonight. So, shoulda, woulda, couldas, if only and just for cherries and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But man, that one still stings. To score 177 and not make it, you hate to see it. Now, our second takeaway here, and we're going to kind of go quick. I say that as we take almost 10 minutes on the rookie receiver report, but a lot of these are just going to be, new quarterbacks starting or running back situations. There's not a ton of info to glean here outside of just running back rooms as we head into week 17. And then also, Michael Penix got his debut. Now, it didn't look great on paper, right? Only 18 of 27 for 202 passing yards and an interception, only 7.4 fantasy points for Michael Penix. But I thought that this tweet was summed it up very well. Shout out to @FantasyKosh. Penix had a .269 EPA per play in his first start. That's the QB7 on the week. If you take away Kyle Pitts, Kyle Pitts waved the white flag. It is over in terms of him being this generational talent. He bobbles a football into an interception in a game that they win 34-7. He could have maybe done something there. And he pretty much gives Michael Penix an interception. And then if you take away the interception, Penix EPA per play goes to .414, which would rank behind only Goff and Herbert on the week. And then he also took 0 sacks on 13 pressures. So his pressure to sack rate was great. His EPA per play was great, which EPA per play is just per play offensive efficiency. That's all great. But again, it didn't really translate to the box score, but it is very encouraging moving forward for Penix long-term for these pass catchers in week 17 as well. Now, it's not to take anything else from this game. You still had Drake London have the most targets in this game. I think he got banged up at the end. But you had 38 rush attempts to 27 passes and a 34-7 blowout. So nothing else really to be seen here. Then our third takeaway is we got vintage Jonathan Taylor. I didn't know if that guy was still in there. I have to assume after fumbling at the 1 yard line, he probably got in his head about it, really made it a point of emphasis to, he went high and tight with the ball, walked it into the tunnel, but then he also put up the 10th highest score for a running back since 2000 in a Week 16 game. Now, that's a little bit shaky because Week 16 prior to 4 years ago was the fantasy championship game, but it's the 10th highest score, 39.8 PPR points for a Week 16 running back since 2000. Huge day. Anybody that had him in fantasy, anyone that got him to the semifinals did very well. 29 carries, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns. The first running back in 6 seasons with 200 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns in a game. Now, our fourth takeaway, similar to Michael Penix, is we have a new quarterback in town. You have Dorian Thompson-Robinson, maybe not a new quarterback, but his first time starting this season. Not great. They put up only 6 points, only 157 passing yards. The only startable pass catcher was David Njoku, who had 10 targets, 8 catches, 66 yards. There's some crazy stats out there. I want to say I saw Underdog or somebody tweet it, but David Njoku has, I want to say he averages 10 plus targets in every game with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but because Dorian Thompson-Robinson sucks, the receiving yards don't end up being there. But you'll take 8 catches for 66 yards from your tight end all day. I think the stat was from Ryan Heath. Shout out him, we will definitely be referencing in this video. If we look at the Nathan Yonke running back usage that he does in his PFF articles every week, you can see Jerome Ford in his first game without Nick Chubb was the workhorse. He had 80% of the snaps. He had 16 opportunities, 24.1 PPR points, and he is somebody that if you're running a hero RB build, something like that, he could be a league winner down the stretch here as your RB2 or flex play. Our fifth takeaway, Jahmyr Gibbs without David Montgomery. What did that look like? And we saw 27 touches, 154 yards, a touchdown, used the RB4 on the week, 25.4 PPR points this week for Gibbs, and he had a career-high 6 rush attempts inside of the 10-yard line. Just beautiful stuff. Every time that David Montgomery does not play, Gibbs goes absolutely bonkers, and we should see that here in Week 17 again. Then we have the Seattle backfield. This one was weird. Zach Charbonnet gets named the captain and the starter before the game. We have Ryan Heath here with the stats. Kenneth Walker still out-touched him 16-3, tying his season high of 8 targets. They still evenly split the goal line carries, but despite all of this, there was pre-game reports of Charbonnet being the starter and being the captain, and even still, 16-3 in touches is absolutely brutal. But the most brutal part is that even with the volume, Kenneth Walker, all he gives you is 13.9 PPR points. He has not hit 15 or more PPR points since Week 7. Brutal stuff. Around Week 7, we were thinking, could Kenneth Walker be RB1 rest of season? That has not been the case since then. Then our seventh takeaway is Tyjae Spears leading the Tennessee backfield. We have the Fantasy Life utilization report, and you can see back-to-back 20-plus point games from Tyjae Spears, and the usage has been interesting. Since coming back from a concussion in Week 14, 37% of the snaps, then 55%, now 60%. He's running routes. He had 45% of the rush attempts. That is a huge number for him, you can see here. And then the big number is the inside the 5 attempts. He had 100% this week, 100% of the long down and distance, 100% of the 2-minute drill snaps, and his back-to-back games of 20-plus PPR points. He has been a monster. Just 14 opportunities, but something to note moving forward. Tyjae Spears, is he now taking the lead in this backfield, or is Tony Pollard just banged up? Both are very likely. Pollard, I don't think he logged a single practice this past week, so something to definitely monitor next week to see if he gets any practices in, if you're out here depending on Pollard in a fantasy championship. Then we have number 8, the San Francisco backfield without Guerendo. People were very iffy on Patrick Taylor. Patrick Taylor gets the usage, 13 opportunities, 80% of the snaps, but just 3.5 PPR points against a really good Miami defense. Was not the best day for Patrick Taylor, but he got the role you were hoping for. He just, didn't get the production, was a tough matchup, but at least we do know without Guerendo, you can expect Patrick Taylor for like 12 to 15 touches and 80% of the snaps, which is still a good role. Our 9th takeaway is James Cook continues to crush despite questionable usage. This is from Fantasy Life again. And you can see 19 PPR points, then 4.9, but then 26.3, 27.6. And that's on under 50% of the snaps in every week since their Week 12 bye. 19.5 points per game during this stretch, despite 46%, 46%, 43%, and 36% of the snaps. Just absolutely crazy stuff. I don't know how he's doing it. Insane efficiency, 11 carries, 100 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, 3 catches, 26 yards, and a touchdown. They love Ray Davis. They love Ty Johnson. This is now this like 3-headed backfield split, but James Cook is so efficient and in a good offense that it doesn't really matter a whole ton on a week-to-week basis. Then our last takeaway is Devon Achane, take a bow. Our fantasy king seals the day with a 50-yard touchdown that he probably should have just slid. A lot of guys would have just slid in that scenario, but Devon Achane is our king. He goes down there, takes it all the way to the house, scores a touchdown, won a lot of people their fantasy matchup, gives you 31 PPR points in this game. And in games with Tua, as Ryan Heath points out here, he's still averaged 22.6 fantasy points per game in games with Tua, which would now narrowly beat out Saquon for RB1 on the season. Not really taking a victory lap on that last part because it sucks. Tua did get hurt, so Devon Achane is not the guy that we wanted him to be, because there was a tough stretch in there where you probably needed a bunch of other players on your team to hit if you wanted to make it into the playoffs. So still, shout out Devon Achane. Love to see him crushing down the stretch in the weeks that matter most. I hope that a lot of you guys who drafted Devon Achane won your semifinals because of Achane. Let me know how you guys are doing, by the way. Your teams, are they alive? What do you got sweating into tonight? How are we looking as a whole? But regardless, that's going to do it for us today. Again, I told you it was going to be a little bit abbreviated, just like a 20-minute video. I will say probably after week 18, I'll do kind of a retrospective of the entire season, like a top 10 lessons learned from 2024 as a whole, and kind of break down the entirety of what happened this fantasy season. But regardless, I appreciate you guys watching. As always, if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh, oh.